Hi, I'm Shelley Ware. Thank you for coming to Minds and Souls. Have you ever had an experience that just felt like an absolute punch in the gut? Just kind of knocked you off your feet? Whether it's, just life happening, maybe you went through a divorce or some sort of a breakup. Maybe you lost somebody it's very special in your life. They passed away. Any big major life event. Over the last few years of my life, I've been going through a process. It's been a learning experience for me, and it's one that I know we all have as humans because we all suffer loss throughout our lives in various forms. And what I've discovered is that we all go through a grieving process. And so what I want to talk about today is how not to give up when all you feel like doing is giving up. I'm going to use my own personal experience. I hope that's okay. My reference point in life is everything I've experienced. I don't ever want to talk about something that I haven't personally experienced myself. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to use my experience with my marriage coming to an end after 21 years with the same person. My marriage ended in March of 2017. Now, throughout the course of the last 3 years, it's been an experience, like a peeling back of layers, so to speak. And every layer peeled back was a new experience that occurred post-divorce. Everything that you experience moving forward was a part of the grieving process. That was me grieving the loss of what once was a 21-year romantic relationship with the man that I fell in love with in college when I was 19 years old. And at the time of our separation, we had been together for more than half of our lives. So when you experience that sort of loss, it changes everything you know. Throughout this last 3 years, I have continued to grieve at every pivotal moment, representing a major change and separating me ever farther from my now ex-husband and what once was our life together. I'll start with when he left in March of 2017, and obviously that was just the biggest punch in the gut. And I've told him since, I'm not going to lay all blame on him, because I have told him, and I truly believe this to be true, that we were at a point where if he hadn't have made the decision to leave, I would have. We just weren't in a good place. So I'm going to just put that disclaimer out there, okay? This video is not to bash him in any way. I wish him all the best, and I want nothing but for him to be happy. But at the time, I felt like my world was coming to an end, and truly it was. I didn't know how to wrap my head around what was happening. All I knew was that I had to get through every single day, and it was as simple as that sometimes. I just had to wake up, and then I had to get dressed, and then I had to go to work. And it was a step-by-step process, and then I would come home and I would fall apart. Something would happen and I would fall apart because it would trigger things. I'll never forget the first time I went grocery shopping without him. I was walking down the aisles of Walmart, almost in tears. It took every ounce of energy I had to not fall apart right there in the middle of the aisle of Walmart while, shopping for cereal. Also, people will see this when they experience loss through death, it's not often the big things. It's not the big things that trigger these emotional waves of grief. It's the small things, the things that made you a couple. And the next step was that we sold our house. Now, we had been in this house for 14 years together, and we put it on the market and it sold within 48 hours. That was the house that we bought right after we got married, and then we sold it right after we separated. So our entire marriage was in that home. So walking away from that after we cleaned up and handed over the keys, it was another layer of grief that I then had to go through. Now, at this point, I had not started my faith walk again yet. I wasn't quite there yet. So I was dealing with it on my own. Maybe not on my own, but I didn't realize that at the time. But I felt awfully alone. You know, I went through my birthday without him, and then we got to the holidays. My first holiday season, not only without my husband, but without my father. I lost my marriage and my father within a 6-month or 8-month period. It was very difficult, and I ended up volunteering on Christmas Day because I did not want to wake up alone and spend the day by myself. So, you know, my family had moved out of state, and my friends, they were busy with their own families, and so I ended up volunteering at a local church because that was the only thing I could think of to do to be around people. My divorce was finalized in September of 2018. So there was that, going to the courthouse, getting the actual document that said, "You're now a divorcee." It was emotional. I had to get through that every time. A big one for me was finding out that he had a new girlfriend. One step farther away, one step farther away. So now, you know, in May of 2019, June 2019, I'm at a point where I'm in my faith walk. Now I'm turning to God every time I feel one of these steps farther away. I think in the beginning, I turned to wine. I turned to wine a lot, you know, in the beginning to help me cope, and realized very quickly that wasn't a good path that I was taking. And so I turned that unhealthy habit into a healthy habit of exercise. And now also prayer has become one of those healthy habits. So now I just turn to God and I ask Him to be the rock when I feel my stability faltering, which I did last night when on my weekly Zoom call with a couple of my best friends. We've been getting together every Wednesday night for some time now since COVID-19. They asked me if I had talked with him, and in the back of my head I knew what was coming, but it was still that same punch in the gut when they said the words, "So have you heard he's engaged?" And I hadn't. And I felt the familiar grief, familiar hole in my chest again. And I had myself a good cry. And I asked God, I said, "I need you here. I really need you here tonight." Because I was feeling very alone. So the reason I am making this video today is because I have learned in my journey, what it says behind me, where there is no struggle, there is no strength. And I believe that so much that I tattooed it on myself as a reminder that we all go through stuff. We all struggle, and it sucks, and it hurts like hell. Now, when I found this out yesterday, I was angry and I was upset, and I had a few words with the Lord. I did. I had one of those very honest conversations, raw and emotional, and I said, how is it that I'm alone and he got to leave and walk into his happily ever after, and I'm still alone 3 years later? You know, and in that moment I was having a bit of a pity party, and I think it's okay when you do that. There is no timeline for grief. Everybody grieves differently, and if somebody tells you that you should be over it by now, you just smile and you think to yourself, okay, they don't know because they've not walked in your shoes before. If you find that your grief is so profound that it's interfering with your day-to-day life, you can't get out of bed, you can't eat, you can't go to work, you can't function like a normal person, then you need to be able to recognize that as something that, you know, you should talk to your doctor about. At that point, if it gets to that point, that's when you need to consider seeking professional help in addition to your support from the Lord and your friends and whoever is your support network. Because maybe you just can't get through a portion of this on your own. And I had to do that too. There was an 8-month period where I had counseling and I was on a low-dose antidepressant. And I knew, I was self-aware enough to recognize that I was not coping very well. And I needed more than I was able to do myself. And it worked wonders, and I knew when I didn't need it anymore. And you will too. Since I'm no longer getting counseling and no longer on an antidepressant, I still have these periods of grief response like I did last night. And I'm sure when I hear that they finally get married, I'll still feel these periods of grief. But I truly believe that this is all part of the process. And I know God has something in mind for me. And He has something in mind for you too. So when you feel like just giving up, just look to God and say, Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me tonight because I'm not feeling strong right now. And I need you to be that strength. I need you to be the rock under my feet. And He will. And turn to people that are close to you in these moments of sadness. Listen to a sermon. Listen to worship music. Those always boost me up. I always put on some good worship music, some Mercy Me, tribal, elevation worship, blues worship, or some hard rock worship. That'll get you. That'll get you out of your funk too, Angry worship music. It's better than death metal, perhaps. I just want you to know that going through grief is a natural part of life. God will help you through it. He's not going to stop it from happening. I know that I've been going through this process because in the end, it's making me a stronger person. It is solidifying my faith. And in my moments of weakness, I turn now to Him. And I didn't used to do that. I would turn to my friends. I would turn to a bottle of wine. Now I turn to Him. And even if I'm yelling at Him while I'm praying, I am still turning to God. And I'm finding that it's getting easier every step of the way. I will come out stronger for this in the end. And so will you. Don't give up. God's got you. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Put your questions and comments in the comment section below. If there's any other topics that you would like us to discuss, please make some suggestions. And if this was helpful to you, please share it with a friend because it may help somebody else too. My hope is that we build a community that helps each other. And if you have something that would be helpful to other people, please put that in the comments below. Thank you so much for stopping by. We will see each other again soon.